Hi, everyone. I'm just going to go over some examples for the week 7 homework. So for the first question, at December 31st, Bob Corporation reports net income of 400,000. We want to prepare the entry to close net income. So to close net income, we're going to debit income summary for 400,000. We'll credit retained earnings for 400,000. And I believe they want you to note the date also. So our date is December 31st. Question 2, on May 10th, Bob issues 2,000 shares of $8 par value common stock for cash at 20 per share. Journalize the issuance of the stock. Okay, so we got cash, that was $40,000. And the way we figured that out is we have 2,000 shares, and the amount we received for that was $20 per share. So I have it right here, 2,000 times 20 is 40,000. Next, for the common stock, we have to look at the par value. So 2,000 shares at $8 per share is 16,000. So we're going to credit common stock for the 16,000. There's really a few different ways you can figure out the paid in capital and excess of par, which we will end up crediting. You can do 2,000 shares and take the 20 per share that it's selling for minus the $8 par value, which would be, of course, 12. So you could do 2,000 times 12, which would give you the 24,000. Or you, in this case, because we already know the common stock and the cash, you could have taken the cash, subtracted the common stock, and got 24,000. Or you can always do that to double check your calculation if you want. Question 3, Bob issues 4,000 shares of $14 par value preferred stock for cash at $20 per share. Journalize the issuance of the preferred stock. Okay, so for the cash, we have 4,000 shares. They sold for 20 per share, so that's 80,000. We're going to debit cash for 80,000. Preferred stock, we have a par value of 14, so it's 4,000 shares times $14, which is 56,000. So we're crediting preferred stock for that 56,000. And for the paid in capital in excess of par preferred stock, we could do the 4,000 shares and then take $20 per share minus $14 per share, which is 6. So 4,000 times 6 is 24,000. You could have also backed into it. 80,000 minus 56,000 is 24,000. And again, that's a credit to paid in capital in excess of par preferred stock. Question 4. Question 4, Bob has the following accounts at December 31st. Common stock, 8 par, 5,000 shares issued, $40,000. Paid in capital in excess of par common stock, 24,000. Retained earnings, 56,000. Treasury stock, 400 shares. That totals 8,000. We want to prepare the stockholders' equity section of the balance sheet. So this is our heading, and it's a partial balance sheet. We would have stockholders' equity, paid in capital, capital stock. Then we're going to have our common stock, $40,000, which is right here. We have paid in cap. Next title is additional paid in capital. We have paid in capital in excess of par common stock, 24,000, which is right here. And if we add that together for our total paid in capital, 40,000 plus 24,000 is 64,000. We have retained earnings right there, 56,000. So our retained earnings are 56,000. And for our total and paid in capital and retained earnings, 64,000 plus 56,000 is 120,000. We need to subtract our treasury stock, which was 8,000. So we're going to subtract that 8,000. And that gives us total stockholders' equity of 112,000. There is an example within the problem in Wiley Plus, right in the homework, an example video walkthrough. So you can click on that for questions 5 or question, I think 6, 5 and 6. That's right. Question 7. Land is appraised at 55,000. It's purchased by issuing 1,000 shares of $10 par value common stock. Market price of the shares at the time of the exchange based on active trading in the securities market is 70 per share. Should the land be recorded at 10,000, which is that 1,000 shares times $10 per share? 55,000, that's what the land was appraised at. and our other choice is 70,000. That's the market value of the shares. $70 times 1,000 shares would be 70,000. We're going to record it at 70,000, and I just kind of copied this out for you. But when stock is issued for services for non-cash assets, costs should be measured at either the fair value of the consideration given up, which would be the stock, or fair value of the consideration received, which would be the land, whichever is more clearly evident. In this case, fair value of the stock is more objectively determinable than that of the land, since the stock is actively traded in the securities market. The appraised value of the land is merely an estimate of the land's value, while the market price of the stock is the amount the stock was actually worth on the date of exchange. So that's why we're using that amount. And these get a little tricky when you're trying to do these exchanges, because you just have to look at which is, I guess, objectively a better fair value estimate. Question 8. Again, there's an example in Wiley Plus. Just click on the video within the problem, and there's a video walkthrough example. Question 9. Bob Corporation has 10,000 shares of 5%, $10 par value, cumulative preferred stock outstanding at December 31st, 2022. No dividends were declared in 2020 or 21. If Bob wants to pay $24,000 in dividends in 2022, what amount of dividends will common stockholders receive? So we're looking at how much are our common shareholders or stockholders going to receive. First, we have to figure out what would be our preferred dividend each year. And that's going to be the 10,000 shares times the $10 par value times the 5%, which is $5,000. Right now, and I'm sorry, I should have started here. Our total dividend that we're going to be paying out is $24,000. The dividends in arrears, we have 2 years we didn't pay, right? We didn't pay 20, we didn't pay 21. So we've got 2 years. So that $5,000 preferred dividends each year for 2 years would be $10,000. Then we have the 2022 dividends, which again, we figured that out. That would be $5,000. If we add that together, it's $15,000. So 24,000 minus 15,000 leaves us 9,000 that can go to the common stockholders. Question 10, the stockholders' equity section of Bob consists of common stock, $5 par value, 500,000, retained earnings, 400,000, 10% stock dividend, which would be 10,000 shares, is declared when the market price per share is $11. Show the before and after effects of the dividend on the following: the components of stockholders' equity, shares outstanding, par value per share. Well, the stockholders' equity didn't change. Both before and after the dividends, it's 900,000. Within stockholders' equity, there's some changes. There's some excess par value after the stock dividend, of course. Retained earnings is smaller after the stock dividend, but we didn't have to determine any of that. So I didn't want to go through the whole thing and just serve to confuse you. So as far as the questions themselves, stockholders' equity didn't change. Shares outstanding, there were 100,000. And the way we figure out, the outstanding shares, it is 500,000 divided by $5 per share, which means there have to be 100,000 shares. So that's before the dividend. After the dividend, we have more shares. And there's a couple different ways to do this. I mean, you can multiply 100,000 shares times 110%. You can multiply, I turned it into a decimal. You can multiply 100,000 shares times 1.1, which gives you 10,000. Or you could always do it in 2 steps. 100,000 shares times 10% is 10,000. If you take 100,000 shares and add 10,000 shares to it, it's 110,000. So our outstanding shares after the dividend are 110,000. Par value doesn't change. It's $5 per share. Forgot to tell you how I got the stockholders' equity. It is the 500,000 par value, right? Plus the 400,000 retained earnings. If we add that together, we get the 900,000. And that is it. If you have any questions, feel free to call me. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.